He's there to resume climate talks after a nearly year-long pause.
What we're trying to achieve now is really to establish some stability, if we can, in the relationship without conceding anything.
Let's bring in the chairman of the House Select Committee on China, Wisconsin Congressman Mike Gallagher. Congressman, there's been a lot of travel from administration members, and they're leading up to a possible meeting this fall where Biden and Xi would actually be in the same room. What did you make of this recent trip? Does it matter to us?
It does matter a great deal. Across the board, it seems the Biden administration is trying to revive the policy of diplomatic and economic engagement with the Chinese Communist Party, despite that having failed for 2 decades. And the risk is that we actually do concede things in order just to get a photo op and get to the negotiating table, where our reports right now that we've shelved export licensing agreements, we've shelved sanctions on Chinese officials. We have yet to get full transparency when it comes to the Chinese spy balloon incident. So there is a real cost to this zombie engagement. Among the many officials who have traveled there, John Kerry is actually the Chinese Communist Party's favorite person to deal with, because John Kerry believes we need to cooperate with China when it comes to climate change. It's a bit like believing Bernie Madoff was an ethical business partner, and the CCP exploits his naivety to advance their authoritarian agenda while they string us along in an endless series of meetings. And John Kerry and many others in the Biden administration fail to see what's obvious, which is that the CCP itself, not climate change, is the greatest threat we face.
Let me run this call for number one here. This is from the hearing last week when John Kerry was in front of the Congress, refusing to call President Xi a dictator. Watch here.
The president Xi Jinping called him a dictator. Do you believe he wields the power of a dictator?
President Xi is the major decider of the direction and of the policies of
Is he,
China.
in fact, effectively a dictator?
I don't think it's useful to get into.
Can you understand where John Kerry's coming from there?
It's absolutely embarrassing and shameful. He's quite obviously a dictator. Even people that are more dovish on China than I am will concede that point. He's consolidated power massively. He's the most powerful CCP leader since Mao himself. And the fact that John Kerry is not willing to say something obvious and true, again, illustrates the cost of this zombie engagement approach. This also happened on human rights. When John Kerry was asked about the numerous reports of Uyghur forced labor being used to build solar panels in Xinjiang, he said that it's not my lane. It's not my lane. I don't know what's going on there. That's an abhorrent response, and it's typical of all the zombie engagers and their thinking, where they delude themselves that they can separate their pet issue, whether it's climate change or whatever, from the genocidal communist nature of the regime in Beijing. We're dealing with a Marxist, Leninist regime, and increasingly a totalitarian regime with a complete rule by Xi Jinping.
Quickly, I'm not going to play the soundbite, but National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan was talking about this Chinese hack into government computers, U.S. government computers. He says that no classified information was accessed. Is that your assessment as well?
Based on what I've seen, yes, but that's also not a cause for celebration. During the OPM hack, for example, in 2015, when my military records and millions of others were compromised, those weren't necessarily classified, but they still gave the Chinese Communist Party a massive amount of leverage over us. The information could be used for a variety of purposes in the future. And again, it just tells us something about the regime we're dealing with. At a time we are shelving defensive action in order just to talk to them, they continue their economic and cyber war against America and our allies. This is a paradox of Marxist-Leninist regimes. They get more aggressive as they get more comfortable. They only respect firmness, and they have contempt for people who continually give in to them. The more we give in to them, the more we try and, engage without a sensible, coherent strategy, the more aggressive they are going to get.
Congressman Mike Gallagher, thank you for